Welcome back to another episode of Scryer's Room. I am your host, Famfare.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mario.
And if you like this content, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. And you can also give me a follow on Blue Sky. And if you want to support this podcast, go ahead and look us up on Patreon. And with that, we're going to talk about the Horus Heresy. It seems that Mario has been diving into the series. It's like, what, 50-something fucking books now?
40k content goes deep.
It do. With the Siege of Terra, I think it's like 70 plus.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a lot.
we had been, as like a group of friends, we have been collecting the Horus Heresy books here and there. And Justin currently has our total, and I think we're up to like 30-something of the books, but like, that's not even half apparently.
Goodness.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, on
These aren't small books. This isn't like a collection of short stories. This is they're like it's completely
regular.
Reasonable to call them like that's a book.
Yeah, they're novels. Yeah,
they're regular size.
They're full novels.
Yeah. They're not giant, but they're
They're
that's
not
a book.
novellas for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cyber Monday, I picked up the first 10 because they were like super cheap. And I was like, I've been putting this off for a long time. I finally decided to just start them up.
Just dive in.
Yeah, I'm on the third one. And I was just telling Kevin and Tony that, like, Horus goes down real quick.
Like, almost instantly.
He requires very little pushing over of edge.
Almost none. It was kind of nuts. And, like, also that the Kinnebrak evil demon sword is ridiculous. Anyone not familiar, there are these horrible evil demon weapons that were... There's a lot of them that were being held in a museum.
Sounds super safe.
Yeah, of the... What are the
Intertrex?
Yeah, the Intertrex. And they're... At this point, like... Horus and crew are still under the assumption that like gods, the souls, spirits, that none of that's real. That's just warp shenanigans,
right?
Tricking your brains. And then that's why the Interacts were like so cautious to like interact with the Imperium, because there's just like, what if this is a chaos trick? And then through an interaction of a Space Marine and one of the Interact soldiers, the Interact guy figures out, he's like, oh, you don't even know what chaos is, do you? And he's like, no. Like, he's like, we follow the Imperial truth. Like, there's no gods, there's none of that. And he's just like, oh, buddy.
Oh, honey.
Oh, man.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
He's like, yeah, we were scared that you were, like, gonna be horrible, secret chaos worshippers, but you're just ignorant. Like, oh, man. That's kind of relieving, but also like really shit. And then all of a sudden, like alarms start going off.
It's like Pilaf being after the Dragon Balls, and you think that he's one of Frieza's guys. I know it. Frieza's gonna get the Dragon Balls, and then you're like, "We stopped you and Frieza," and he's like, "Who the fuck is Frieza?"
Yeah, and then
I want to be taller.
Fucking all of a sudden, like alarms start going off, and then the other dude's just like listening to his radio, and he's just like, "Oh, you crafty son of a bitch." Like, you actually had me going there for a minute. And then the Space Marine, he's like the main character, basically, at this point.
Right.
Loken. He's just like, well,
Loken is who the Horus Heresy books follow?
So
or
far,
at least this part.
The early ones. Yeah, he's like the main focus from the Luna Wolf / Sons of Horus perspective. Because he's also, like, a good one.
Yeah.
Like, all the rest of them are super down with... Again, go down real quick, and then Loken's like one of the only ones who's just like, well, let's
hold on, guys.
let's think about this for a minute. But yeah, so
I think the blood demons might not have our best interests in mind.
Yeah, all of a sudden the Interact people are super hostile, and it's because oh man, one of those swords we said were really bad and shouldn't be used, stolen.
The sword from the Forbidden Museum? The Forbidden Museum of Evil and Death?
Yeah.
How could this have happened?
He's like, you timed this so poorly, and Loken's just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Spoiler alert, bro, we didn't time it at all.
Yeah, and it's because Erebus just stole it.
Yeah.
He's a piece of shit.
Just some guy?
He's a word bearer, Space Marine, who, at this point in the story, doesn't really tell you, but Lorgar's whole thing, his Primarch, was he worshipped the Emperor as a god.
Right.
And then, like, he actually wrote the Lectitio Divinatus, which is the cult of the of
the big holy book of God Emperor Daddy.
Basically, God Emperor Bible.
Yeah.
Like, he wrote that, and then the Emperor took exception to that.
Right, that was explicitly against his direct orders.
Because, while it doesn't explain it this early in the story, the Word Bearers took way longer than everyone else to conquer worlds, because it turns out they were spending decades to convert everybody in the populace to their new religion. And then the Emperor found out about that and blew them all the fuck up.
Right.
And that was his version of, like, giving him a spanking.
Yeah, we talked about this in a previous episode where that was his equivalent of making him smoke the entire pack of cigarettes. Yeah.
And that was the wrong move.
By making them experience the totality of the storyline of Dune.
Yeah.
That's his smoke the whole pack.
And Lorgar was a little mad about it.
As one would be.
And so he's just like, fine, if you won't let me worship you, I'll find other gods. And then he basically invited chaos into his legion, and it worked. And then they all became chaos cultists. And so that's already happened at this point, but nobody knows that. And Erebus is considered like a cool guy.
Right.
He's really schmoozed up to Horus at this point, because he's considered like a valuable advisor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm part of the book guy crew. We're just silly little guys, you know?
Yeah, and
We're
so
not
he
looking
steals
for-
the evil, horrible demon sword.
Yeah.
And then just gives it to a guy on an Imperial world. And then, don't you know, that leads to that guy rebelling and becoming possessed by chaos. And infecting an entire small planet, a moon, with just Nurgle grossness. And then he then sets Horus up to be like, you left that guy in charge, and he's just straight up renounced you're in charge. He's rebelling.
That's open treason.
This is a personal insult to you, Horus. You know, let that happen, Horus. And Horus is like, no.
He's so easily caught.
And he convinces him to personally lead this assault.
Go whip his ass, bro. He's been talking mad shit.
Yeah, and then they get attacked by Nurgle zombies, because of course.
Right.
And then...
It's a Nurgle planet. There's got to be Nurgle zombies on there.
Which everyone is way too chill about. They don't question that they're being attacked by literal zombies.
And at this point, they're not even totally under the impression that chaos magic is real.
They have no idea. Only Loken, at this point, has had a conversation about this whole chaos thing with a guy.
Yeah.
Who then thought he betrayed him, and now...
Frankly, if anyone told me that that my old advisor had become an evil wizard who had raised the dead in like an evil disease magic to trap me and kill me and my friends, I probably wouldn't believe them either if I was a spaceman. Oh, he's a wizard now? Really?
Yeah, well, then you get attacked by a horde of zombies. And then,
clearly Xenos.
That's just aliens. Yeah. Some bony, man-like aliens.
And then Horus leads us basically a squad to go get the guy who got the sword. And that guy just, like, smacked, you just killed a space marine in, like, a single swipe. Like, it was nothing.
That's not even really an option if you're a regular dude.
Like Horus shows up, and it's one of his, his
Brodicus, no!
One of his favorite sons, and then he just got his throat slashed open, and it was just Dunzo, and he's like, wow, this guy seems to maybe actually be a threat. I should be careful. And then...
The Space Marine's only weakness. We have 2 of every vital organ except the head and neck.
Well, it's also a horrible demon doo-doo sword, so he... Then it just lets this guy fight Horus, like, on equal footing.
And this is just a man.
He's just a horrible, gross, bloated, Nurgle, cursed man now.
Ugh.
And he's acting as if he can't lose.
Right.
And Horus is actually, like, having to go all out and just to, like, not get his head cut off. Manages to win, but the guy, the horrible, evil demon sword, managed to get one on him on his shoulder.
He got nicked.
And
the
that's
and the Khal Drogo due to infected wound.
That's all it takes.
That's all
apparently.
it takes.
So he ends up killing him, but it's too late. You've got the demon aids now. Like, so, what can you do about that? And then, who's here to save the day? Erebus. I know how we can save him. We got to go to that.
The rumors of my evil wizard status are highly exaggerated. I'm
becomes
purely a medical doctor who's ready to help.
As he becomes more and more Grima Wormtongue with every
Yeah.
frame, I feel like he gets like hunched over and his armor gets dyed black and
It's
raven
might
feathers
as well.
are coming out.
it's like Blazing Saddles, where every time they show that one character, their hat gets bigger.
And I mean, all but like because he goes to the inner circle of the Sons of Horus basically, and it's just like, hey guys, like we should totally go to that planet down there. Like, we got this whole Warrior Lodge thing from watching them. There's this one lodge, the Lodge of the Serpent, that
oh, you don't fucking say.
yeah,
The Lodge of the Surly Traders.
And
They're
they know special healing techniques and rituals, and they're just telling this to a group of people who have been indoctrinated by like a secular belief system,
Right.
That like atheism, like no magic exists, yada yada.
yeah.
And they are just like, I guess nothing else is working. Our future science does nothing against the whatever aids that sword gave him. And yeah, so they just go
1,000 years of indoctrination.
Yeah, they're
shattered by one vaguely like evil cut.
because they're so loyal to Horus that they'll do anything to try to save him, and then nothing else is working. So I guess we're going to do a weird barbarian magic ritual, and they do that.
Put the snakes on him. No, I know that's not in any of the medical books, but they say that if you put the snakes on them and they don't bite, that means that God thinks this is okay and he'll let the surgery work.
Snakes conspire.
Yeah, just voodoo men just chanting around.
Might as well have been, honestly. They just take him into the snake shrine, into the back room.
You would not ever get me to be like, okay, I need medicine. Will you go to the snakes? No. Snakes are literally made of the opposite of medicine. Venom.
Which is basically what this other main character
Keeps screaming at them.
He's an iterator, which is like basically the precursor to like an inquisitor.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones who go around and do the indoctrinating.
Right.
They're really skilled orators and
So
stuff
he's like
that.
the youth minister of the youth
Kinda,
pastor
yeah.
man.
After you conquer a world, like you gotta have somebody's real good at talking to convince them that it was a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's that guy's job. He's one of many of these people, and he's been researching shit, and he straight up tells the Space Marine Loken that like he's a snake temple. You say like I've been doing a lot of research, and it appears that like throughout history, snakes have been considered a symbol of evil. Loken's like, what? He's just like he's like, yeah, we have all these tales from old Earth.
Good Christian metaphors.
Specifically this one about Satan, and it's like he just straight up tells him that like, yeah, that's probably a bad thing, that what they're doing down there. You might want to like try to stop that.
He just jumps back with like, well, this they call it the caduceus is the symbol of medicine. There's a snake on that. Okay, but importantly, that's a snake on a stick controlled by a man, a wizard man, which we don't believe in, remember. The snake isn't doing the healing here.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole thing just goes down. Horus is having like a weird spirit journey in the warp. Erebus is doing a chaos ritual because it turns out these barbarians on this planet are just chaos worshippers.
What?
Yeah.
No.
So they do a whole ritual thing, and he goes into the warp to basically convince Horus to turn traitor. And yada yada yada. It works.
Right.
A little too easily.
He gets him in his fever dreams.
Yeah, it basically just is like plays his ego, and it just works way too easily. Like basically just tells him like it would be really cool if you were in charge. Like, you've done all the work. What is the Emperor doing? he left you here. He put all this shit on your shoulders. And Horus is like, yeah, he did, didn't he?
God, what a fucking cock.
Like, it's played out a lot more than that, but, like, that's basically what happened, like, in a nutshell. Even after Magnus shows up and tries to, like...
Brother,
yeah,
no!
Like, don't do that. Like, he's evil. And he's like, Horus, what do you... Look at him. How is he here? He's been using sorcery, too. Can you trust him? He's like, you're using sorcery, too. And he's just like, yeah.
But I'm not.
Literally to save you. Literally to save you. Oh, man.
Exactly. Would you trust me if I was saying that? I don't think I would. Exactly. Now kill him, my liege.
Pretty much.
Poor 1,000 Suns, man. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because then after Horus comes out of the thing and he's healed now because he's accepted chaos, blah, blah, blah. Then he immediately sends fucking Lehman Russ after him.
Yep.
And that's why that whole thing went down, is because he was just like, Magnus is a bit of a traitor. Russ is like, not on my watch. And yeah. Apparently they already hated each other or something.
Oh, yeah, they've hated each other since their inception. Now, that was, I don't know which book it is, but Prospero Burns is the one where, fucking Russ shows up to destroy Prospero. Because, like, they don't prepare to fight them because you're like, no, we're scholars. I haven't read it, but this is my understanding, is that they basically, like, don't use most of their defenses because, like, we're not going to fight. Like, we're brothers. Like, why would we fight? That's silly. And then the Space Wolves are just Space Wolves, and they're like, brrr, and they just go...
Viking time!
Yeah, and they fucking purge those guys. It's not good, dude. It's not good. None of the Space... This is... The Horus Heresy really paints the picture of, like, the Imperium was never the good guy. They were never, like... None of the factions of 40k are the good guys. It's just a bunch of desperate, horrible civilizations just trying to eke out a living.
So the Interacts were pretty cool.
Yes. Well, the Imperium killed all the cool civilizations.
You gotta.
It's just unfortunate. If Erebus wasn't there, Horus seemed like he would have allied with them.
Yeah.
But, like, it's 40k. You can't have a happy ending.
I believe, and I'll have to look this up because I've been meaning to look this up recently. There was basically a series of posts on the 4chans about the Grimbright Warhammer, and it was like, I think it was like Prospero University, and basically it was alternative history where if...
Just an anime university.
Yeah, it's the anime version of Warhammer 40,000, where instead of like constant like grim dark warfare, a lot of the civilizations exist in permanent Cold War because like openly we're not at war, but then like people are raiding planets all the time to get resources or information and data, and like the Eldar are like blooming again and stuff, and it's like... It's just an interesting take because that's one of the things where, like, yeah, Prospero is, like, still the center of Imperial learning. And I thought that was an interesting concept. Yeah.
The orcs, actually, they only beat you up. They don't kill you fully. You know, you need to get stronger so that you can beat me up. So I'll only beat you up a lot instead of killing you.
Okay, so speaking of that, funny concept, there was this fan fiction, I think the dude was trying to get it published in the Black Library, but it's such like a
very fanfiction-y.
It's too fanfiction-y to ever be taken seriously, even though it's like part of the premise is that due to warp shenanigans, you're in like an alternate version of the universe.
Right.
It's called Rise of Tau, and basically like the Space Marine chapter, these Space Marines from a chapter go through a warp drive and it basically teleports them into the super hard of the future, and it's like alternative in this alternative universe. The Tau have like basically taken over the Tau is now the Imperium. They have taken over most of the galaxy, and the Imperium still exists, but it's mostly just like Terra and the surrounding systems. That's like, and the Imperial fleet is just at Terra at all times because the Tau could just take over. Like they could be coming any fucking minute. And like Robute Gilliman is on the Tau side. He woke up and was like, yeah, they're correct actually. And so the Tau just have Space Marines now. And it's like that level. But one of the things that made the Tau win was they took over the old one's strategy of orcs are just the best warriors, so they're just going to be ours now. And I guess in the fan fiction they accomplished this by they had orcs and they put them on a world and they kept bringing dead Tau bodies to that world. And I guess one of the things they established is orcs and Kroot are very similar, where part of eating is how they evolve. They like take on the traits of the things that they're eating.
Yeah, genophage.
Which I heard a theory that's why Kroorks aren't a thing anymore, is because humans suck, and so they keep eating humans, so now they basically de-evolving. I don't know if that's accurate. That's a theory I heard about Kroorks.
I'll be straight up and down with you. I was under the impression that orcs didn't eat at all. They just had teeth just for fighting reasons.
They make dung piles.
Yeah, mostly squigs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Or
Other
grots
Yeah.
or other orcs.
Yeah, but that's just a theory I heard. I don't know any credence to it. But yeah, point being, they kept throwing Tau bodies to the planet, and so eventually the orcs just became blue because they were part Tau. They had like the same like
They're
genetic.
Blorks now.
Yeah, they're the Blorks, and because they were part Tau, they were susceptible to the ethereal pheromones. And so the ethereal could walk up to the war boss and just tell the war boss what to do, and he'd comply. And then he'd just do orky things in the Tau's direction. And they just let them run wild. They didn't give a fuck. And so they had the blue orcs destroy green orcs and then just keep spreading.
Now you see,
And so now there's a barrier wall of just orcs and like constantly fighting the Imperium because the Tau told them to.
I'm writing this. I call the new blue war boss the daimyos now.
Might as well. We might as fucking well.
The blue people are weebs anyway. People would eat that shit up.
Yeah, God bless me. You know what? I would be surprised if he didn't. I didn't read the fan fiction, but my cousin Todd was talking about it one time. We were super into Warhammer still, and he played Tau, and yeah, that was a very interesting story.
I thought you were gonna mention the fanfic of a there's a one where a mech boy finds a Tau child and he just thinks it's a blue grot.
That's super good.
And he likes the blue grot because it knows a lot about science and shit.
Yeah.
And, like, so it'll just like build stuff for him basically, or tell him how to build stuff. And he just calls it his lucky grot. Blue.
I like that. The one that I remember is Blueberry was a waifu on 4chan who was, I don't know anything about this character. Anybody who actually knows anything, feel free to
comment. Yeah,
correct me, whatever. All I know is that this was some sort of Tau Necron. But it was obviously, this is waifu bait, so this is obviously a hot girl blue Tau, super hot cyborg babe situation, but also she had Necron bits.
I never looked into Necron lore too much. That's one of like the parts of Warhammer that I'm not too versed in. But I know they got retconned several times. And to my understanding, at one point during, I think, 3rd edition, the lore was, one of their units was the Pariah. Mm-hmm. And they were basically like people turned into Necrons.
Ooh.
Yeah, because they took humans.
It's an explanation and or in addition to just that blanks happen. But they earlier lore suggested that they bred the Pariah gene into humans to make them blanks, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where blanks come from in this version?
Because
maybe.
they fuck over the warp, yeah.
Or maybe blanks also just happen.
Right.
But they would take the ones...
Chicken and the egg.
Yeah, they would take the ones with Pariah gene and turn them into Necron Pariahs.
Yeah. And they were like, in the Dawn of War video game, this is before Necron were like sentient and had like, they were basically just Terminators, and they were just like mindless, horrible tide of like death.
Yeah.
They were more metaphor for death than like than space Tomb Kings. In the Dawn of War games, the person talking is just one of the pariahs commenting on what's happening. So like the Necron Lord's like going around doing terrible Necron Lord things, but he's like an unstoppable force. He's not like a person like you and I.
Right. You wouldn't get any commentary from him.
Yeah. Whereas like the pariah is like commenting and like saying stuff in like lieu of the army. It was an interesting concept, but yeah, all of that has basically been retconned. Now, like, the lower Necrons are mostly just, like, mindless automatons because they've been destroyed so many times that, like, any idea of, like, their previous selves...
Like, their ego has just been eroded away by dying again and again and again.
Exactly. Whereas, like, the more, like, powerful, like, higher-up Necron have actually, like, personalities and egos still.
Yeah.
Which, it makes them more of, it gives them more of an ability to have literature about them because they can actually have drive and like motivation besides like we are death.
These can be characters rather than just
a
evil
metaphor.
Yeah.
The Necron were just a metaphor before of like this is death. This is the end of all things.
Yeah.
It is you cannot bargain with it, you cannot negotiate with it.
This is raw scientific murder robot.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to it.
And they're nebulous and they're horrible and they were OP as shit in 3rd edition.
Yeah.
Because they had a rule. I'm going to break down some mechanics, so I apologize if this is a bit dry. So back before current Warhammer edition, 8th edition is when they made this change. Vehicles had armor values instead of like a toughness stat, and they didn't have wounds. So a vehicle would have basically front, side, and rear armor, and that could range from 8 to 14 was the highest. and you would roll a d6 and add the strength of the weapon to that d6, and if that equaled the armor value, it was a glancing hit, and if it went over the armor value, it was a penetrating hit. You'd roll on a table, and depending on that was what happened to the vehicle. Right. So basically, if vehicles didn't take wounds, it was you just keep doing that until
you rolled the vehicle is destroyed by this.
Yeah, exactly. Or I think each time it happened, you got like a modifier to where eventually it's just going to explode. Right. Or a lot of times they get wrecked. And if the vehicle got wrecked, you just left it there. Like part of the game was
right. So it became now like a new piece of like
terrain. Yeah, it became cover. So like a wrecked transport could then be used for the guys getting out of it as cover. It was.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Old Warhammer's pretty fucking sick nasty. They really simplify the game for the sake of expediency and for the sake of balancing, which, you know, that's one of the things that's lost, is like the cool, sick, nasty little mechanics like that. The point being, the Necron monolith, the big old pyramid thing they materialize out of, it was their only tank. It had 14 on all sides, and it had, because it was necrodermis, if you go with the living metal rule, nothing counted as above strength 8 to it. So you only could ever get glancing hits. Like, cause, you could only get, you'd have to get a 4. No. Yeah, because 14, I'm pretty sure you could only get glancing hits on the thing. Or some rule like that. Basically, it fucked with the strength characteristic of weapons. Yeah. So that, like, the las cannon was basically fucking, like, not good against it. And then, it ignored lance. That's what it was. It ignored lance. So the Eldar have like all this like lore about like the great enemy, the ancient enemy, the Necrons. We've been battling them since our inception. Yeah, I think part of the lore is that the Eldar were basically made to fight Necrons. Mm-hmm.
Them and orcs.
Yeah, them and orcs. And lance weapons in that game were strength 8, las cannon being strength 9. But lance weapons made your armor count as 12. So like whatever your armor was, the highest that would count as 12. Strength 8 on strength 12 is pretty good. You only need 4s. And the fucking living metal ignored that. So, like, a lance weapon could only get glancing hits on it on a 6. Otherwise, you couldn't do anything to it.
God damn.
And it was, like, such a fucking, like...
I was actually thinking it was the complete opposite, where it was like, oh, I see, because you can't use too much high strength on them. You don't bother using a stronger weapon. You use a weapon that... their armor can't do it. That makes a lot of sense. No.
It's the opposite. Yeah. They are the ancient enemy. It's like the Borg, basically. Yeah. Or they keep adapting their technology to whatever phasers hitting them. They're basically capturing that energy with the Eldar. Oh, you just don't get to shoot that, really. Eldar do have melta-guns, so if you like had fire dragons, you could attempt to do something. But I just remember the monolith being... And I was also a dumb little kid, so I'm not really good at tactic game, you know? Yeah. But the monolith was basically unkillable for, like, when I actually played against it. We used to call playing Necron playing the N-word because we hated them so much. They were so strong. Joke didn't age too well, but...
It's also important to note that Tony is not just a Caucasian man saying that. It's...
I guess these details do matter.
These details matter for people that are completely Caucasian, like myself, who... I'm not making that joke.
That's true. Fuck. But no, yeah, the Necron cool.
Yeah, which is...
Oh, but talking with the Blue Tau.
Yeah, Blue Tau.
She was probably a pariah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because one of the other theories was that... the Tau have limited presence in the warp. They don't have psychers. Right. So they actually have to use like sophisticated AI to do warp jumps, and they really suck at it. That's why the Tau Empire hasn't expanded too far. And they actually outsource labor to do warp travel. Like, they'll use other aliens to do that because their empire consists of so many aliens.
They have so many quote-unquote allies.
Yeah. Which, like, the most recent update for Tau... redid the Kroot, and the Kroot got a whole bunch of stuff, and they've needed to do this for
years. Those are the Cannibal Birdmen, right?
Yes, the Cannibal Birdmen have a whole bunch of new models and like a whole bunch of support, and I've been bitching about like, you have the Kroot, why not use them? I've been bitching about this for like a decade, and they finally this edition, this update, did like the entire range of them. It was really cool, but where they have to go from further on, the next time they decide to do something cool for the Tau. The fact that we don't have access to the auxiliaries, because they have like hundreds of alien species under their belt, and almost like a lot of them contribute troops to the auxiliaries. So like even like Guevesa, like human helpers, like they have entire like fucking armies of like human dudes Like, a lot of them are, like, former guardsmen just hanging out in the Tau Empire doing Tau things. And I always thought it was interesting that, like, they won't do it now because they need to have a model to give it stats. That's kind of their policy. But before, when it was still, like, more like a historical reenactment game, they really could have done, like, an interesting mercenary system or something where, like, you can, like, ally in units. I don't know. They could have done a lot with it, but I know they won't. But it'll be interesting to see if they ever add any more things like the Vespids. Because one of the only other aliens you get in Tau are Vespids, which are like these bugmen with, like, laser blasters. And, like, they're really dumb. So, like, the leader has, like, this headset on that makes them smarter so they can, like, communicate better and, like, do tactics. Kind of like Ogrins. I thought it was cute. Because they're bugs. Like, they, like, speak in, like, fucking bug language and, like, vibrations and shit.
So what I've been looking up this entire time, sorry to just completely derail it because
no worries.
I'm a dumb baby. So in Animorphs, there is the blue psychic centaur people, but there's also the Hork-Bajir.
The what?
The Hork-Bajir, who are giant green bird monster men.
Okay, that's pretty...
This is just what the Kroot are in my brain. This is the Kroot and the Tau working together.
Oh, man. That's funny.
Any of you Animorph kids out there that remember will know that that's a great joke.
No, that's something to talk about right now. Animorphs. Animorphs
was wild.
Yeah, fucking wild. What a way to start a book.
Yeah.
Is Blue Centaur man gives kid powers and then gets eaten by, like, a space Cthulhu? Or something?
He becomes one of their friends. He morphs into a human.
The Cthulhu?
No, the Blue Centaur.
Oh, I thought one of them got eaten.
I'm pretty sure at least one of the Centaur men get eaten, but they were like a crew of them that came.
Okay, I misremember. It's been so long.
Because the evil empire, the Yerks, they're slugs that crawl into your ear and then cover your whole brain and then control your body.
Gruul style.
Yeah.
Brutal.
And once they get the Animorph like technology to morph, they potentially are like, that's it. They're everyone's done. The mind control slugs can now turn into anything. And like, apparently the way to get around this is to find 5 or 6 children,
plucky teenagers,
who have a very limited ability to touch animals. They're like suburban teens. So there's not like a tiger. They break into a zoo to like go hug on tigers and gorillas and shit, so they can turn into tigers and gorillas and shit. Animorphs ruled. There's like 100 of these damn books.
Didn't they make a live action show was like super low budget and like
awful?
I remember the special effects were just terrible. Even like me being a kid and being easily impressed by special effects, I remember thinking, "Wow, this is just trash."
Yeah, it's the equivalent of those book covers.
Yeah. Those incredible works of art where children slowly turn into animals.
That was the reason
their clothing morphing into a different part of the animal for some reason.
That was the reason I thought it was dumb as a kid, because I was just like, look at that cover. There's no way that's good.
Yeah. Accurate thought. I thought that same thought too. Oh man, fucking wild, man.
I loved it. Animorphs ruled.
How many books are there?
Oh, there's genuinely a lot. There's like at least 50.
50?
Yeah.
I was expecting 30. I was expecting the word 30 to come out of your mouth, and you still think that was too
There's
many.
A shitload.
Because I know it ends, like, dark as shit. Like, it ends, like, fucking... Because he must have been doing it for years, so it's one of those things that grew up with his audience.
So...
I'm assuming,
the woman who wrote it... it's all available for free online, by the way, if you want to read it. She has it, like, completely... Like, you just go... Like, not even doing crimes. Go to her website. You can read all of them for free. But, like, she wrote these, and they did grow up with their fucking audience, because it went from, like... We turned into a gorilla and beat up the alien, and the alien ran away. We did it, guys. Unfortunately, our friend is trapped as a hawk. These are pretty real stakes. And then by the end, it's genuinely like, if we want to save the Earth, we have to get onto the Star Destroyer, turn into a gorilla, and then rip through 20 men barehanded. And the guy's like, cracking his knuckles, like, I thought you'd never ask.
Meanwhile, like, several of them have been, like, disemboweled several times.
Oh, yeah, they get killed, like, almost killed all the time. You just, like, all of your organs are falling out of your... They get eaten by a T-Rex and are being dissolved in its stomach acid. But luckily, Animorphing will just fucking... You're fine again.
God bless.
You just have trauma now from being partially disemboweled or eaten. And then they execute one of them that like turns evil. There's a new kid that joins them at a certain point, and he becomes an Animorph, and he becomes an evil Animorph. And so because they're like, we don't know what to do with this, and we're obviously not going to kill him, so they have him turn into a rat, and they put him in a glass bottle, and they throw it out to sea.
Which kills him.
Yeah, because if he tries to like unmorph, he'll be crushed by the bottle. Your body can't like exert more force than like its mass. So like he can't unmorph, but also if he tries to like get out of the bottle, he's in the sea. So he's dead. So they executed his ass.
Acting like we can't just kill him, so we'll just not look at it while we kill him.
Doesn't even count. He
We'll
wasn't.
still starve to death. That's lame.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Animorphs was crazy.
Yeah, you thought 40K goes hard.
Yeah, god damn, dude. Animorphs is fucking rough, dude.
Animorphs was wild.
What other fucking was that considered a children's book or a young adult book? Because they were from like middle grade, right?
So they were part of the Scholastic line, publishing house, which means that they were all like I read those in elementary school, and that was considered appropriate.
Okay, so they were super super low.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty intense for a kid's book.
Yeah,
it
does grow with
a kid's book.
It grows with its audience, so like it stops being like an act. Like it's the first ones are so short, but like by the end they're regular ass books, and good lord, they are fucking crazy.
Okay, so I just got hit by a thought that just exploded, that shot into my mind like an arrow. Do you remember Rugrats All Grown Up?
I sure do.
Like, Nickelodeon was
that
fucking
shit was
wild.
Weird.
Yeah, shit was fucking
What was
weird.
The point of that show?
Yeah, because the reason the thought was growing up with its audience. Like, I remember watching Rugrats as a kid on Nickelodeon. I enjoyed Rugrats.
Yeah.
That was a fun show. It's about babies doing baby derp things, and it was super wholesome. And they had, like, great Christmas specials. They had one about Christmas, and they had one about Hanukkah. And I remember thinking, and this is probably what their goal was all along. It's a good thing. I'm glad this is the kind of inclusion shit I like, where it's like, it's cool that Jews have a different version of Christmas. Like, I remember being, like, 8 and having that thought.
Yeah.
And, like, baby's first exposure to fucking culture. Like,
anyway. I remember it vividly, because Tommy is, like, half Jewish.
Because Peggy's Jewish and Stu is a Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a whole fucking thing. It was, that was great.
Yeah, and that's because Nickelodeon's whole goal was to make, like, things for kids. It's not about the money. It's about, like, making good entertainment with good values and shit. And, like, and Rugrats fucking nailed that, dude. Like, good Christian television. Like,
you remember Doug?
Doug was such a fucking... I remember thinking, like who... I watched the first episode recently, and I remember a lot of people, I think even my sister liked Doug. A lot of people liked Doug. And I remember thinking, sorry for saying the C word. All right? I said the C word, but it's what I felt in my heart, because he's such a fucking...
He's a pussy.
He's a lot of things, man. Remember Skeeter?
Yeah,
he's just blue.
Gets bullied by the guy with gangrene.
Like. He gets bullied by a guy dressed as like a 50s biker, but also like that bully doesn't like beat the shit out of Doug. He's just like, and you're a nerd. And Doug's like, dear journal, today was devastating. I didn't like Doug. I had a problem with Doug.
Yeah,
I wasn't much of a fan either.
Yeah, I remember watching the first episode recently as an adult and thinking, like, I don't like this guy. He's like, he has the same literary problem that you get a lot, where people will try to write, like, oh, they're clever and sassy and witty, and that makes they're kind of sharp or kind of short with people, and they end up just making an asshole. And it's like, well, I'm not rooting for you. You're just a negative, shitty person. You're not even, like... Whoever wrote this thought they were cute, but they're not, and I just don't like them. Like,
so the reason I brought it up is just because I remembered the girl's name was Patty Mayonnaise.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
Like that's some James Bond shit.
Yeah.
Miss Moneypenny.
Doug, it's me, Patty Mayonnaise. She had like a weird gravelly southern voice. I can't even do
any of this. I don't remember any of this.
I
guess I blocked it out.
I didn't care for it, and it left an impression.
I was busy watching good cartoons like Edd and Eddy.
Oh yeah.
Edd and Eddy ruled.
Edd and Eddy is one of my all-time favorites, man. The
Rolf, the son of the shepherd.
and him just
King
being
shit.
nebulously ethnic.
He's just foreign.
Yeah, that's the one. Nebulously foreign. That's the word I meant.
Yeah, he's just.
Yeah.
He's not from here. From the old country.
That's my horse.
That's my horse. Just one note at like 1/4 time. Who. That's my horse.
Yeah, what a fucking show, dude.
Blowing on a jug. Beating
Yeah.
people up with a fish.
And like the fact that like every frame was just squiggly, like they never stayed on frame.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was unique. It was unique.
There's an episode of that lives for like forever in my brain because I just loved the concept of it so much. When they built a cardboard city, but it like because it was larger on the inside than on the outside, they got lost in their cardboard city.
Yeah.
So like the kids didn't even see Edd, and Eddy in that episode. They were just looking for them because they're like, those motherfuckers are going to try to scam us somehow with this big ass cardboard city. Where the fuck are they? And like in the 100 miles away, impossibly, in some cardboard construction accident, they're like trying to pull Double D out from under the wreckage, and they don't even know that the scam's happening.
Yeah.
They have world built themselves into a corner where these people are they didn't have the opportunity to get 25 cents.
So
They never got those jawbreakers.
I love the fact that they're always scheming for those giant ass jawbreakers,
Yeah.
and they just throw them in the routes impossibly.
Yeah.
And I also can't help but think that like,
Everyone's tongue was different colors.
who are they making fun of? Like, because I mean, they're making fun of like fucking con artists and scammers, sure, but like specifically, like, what motherfucker when they were kids was like, dude, I'm gonna be a complete horrible scam asshole and then buy candy, like. Because I feel like they have to be making somebody specifically, like
Right. There was a guy that they knew. Maybe it was them, and they were Eddie, and they were just such like sugar addict children that they were like, I was a villain for the first 12 years of my
I
life.
needed candy.
I needed candy to a degree that I was willing to lie, cheat, and steal, and everyone knew that when I was coming around, I was getting ready to lie, cheat, and steal on behalf of my candy addiction.
Yeah, it's almost like yeah. It's just
I was a chocoholic. Destroyed my damn life.
I also love Ed.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, just the absurdity of things that happened around him.
He
like,
ate his whole bed.
Yeah, like when they show up to his house and he's just like, I can't hang out, guys. I'm grounded.
I was gonna bring this
and
up.
then the
They took
stairs
his-
are gone.
Yeah!
and
He
he's
took his
like,
whole staircase.
I love that so much.
It's like, Ed, where's your stairs? He's like, they took them because I am grounded, and it's just, and they're like stunned.
Yeah.
Like,
What a good bit.
that
I was literally gonna bring it over. Yeah,
That was the episode where he and Double D switch places. Like, Double D is acting like Ed, and Ed's acting like Double D, and the Double D's just in his room and like somehow stumbles and falls into the tub, and it's full of gravy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ah.
Do you remember the episode where Ed gets so deep into method acting that he becomes the xenomorph from Aliens? He just put on a monster costume and he gets so into character that he starts like kidnapping people and chewing up cereal and spackling them to the wall with
I
it.
forgot about that. Yo, that's so gross.
And fucking Eddie and Double D are like, just stop. You don't need to do that. Just stop. But he was too lost in the sauce.
I remember the episode where they try to make him cool. Swiggity swag, what's in
the
bag?
bag?
Yeah, and they just had a bunch of fucking like cool lines for him to say.
His fucking imaginary friend.
Plank?
No, what was, like, Ed had an imaginary friend and kept, like, the imaginary friend kept, like, fucking, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, ratting out their scams.
I don't remember.
What's the name? I gotta look this up. Keep going.
I don't remember that one either.
I'm pretty sure Plank was an actual person,
Yeah.
or at least like a ghost or psychic aberration of some type.
I was gonna say
aberration, because
Giant 2x4 was psychic. That's one of
Yeah.
my theories.
I was gonna say Plank is like some sort of eldritch being.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does things like in the show, like more than more than once, it's like, impossibly, no one moved him, but he's across the room. It pulled the lever on them while they were doing, like, the roller coaster that they made, and then they were like, all right, we're not actually going to do it. And then Plank moves from, like, across the room over to next to the lever, and he just falls, and it sends them on this roller coaster as, like, a divine punishment, I guess.
Okay, so there's an episode...
Jib, that's the name.
Jib! Okay, I remember Jib.
Yep.
There's an episode where they're at the pool or something, and I forget exactly what's happening, but I know Double D is upset, because it's, like, hot, and he wants to leave, or something's going on, and for some reason, someone has to dive off of the high dive, and they don't want to do it.
Oh, it's because he's mad because he keeps getting, like, his sunscreen taken away from him.
Yeah, and he's sunburnt, and I remember him just being at his wit's end, and he ends up, like, because someone's trying to do, like, the high dive, or Ed's trying to do it, or Eddie's trying to do it or something, and he's, like, pussing out or something. I don't remember exactly what's happening.
Right.
But I remember he grabs a whistle angrily, and then angrily blows it. And then Johnny 2x4 snaps awake from where he was sleeping, and he's at, like, the top of, like, the dive.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like,
'cause
I'm ready, coach! And he just fucking goes.
Yeah!
And I quote that almost, like, weekly. Like,
He was activated like a sleeper agent.
yeah, I anytime I type it, I'm ready, coach, with an exclamation point.
That's what you mean.
That is exactly what I mean. Like, I have been activated. Like, it's fucking go time.
I love when sometimes just partway through an episode we'll just break down into, do you remember this thing? And then we're all like, damn, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Fucking love it.
Yeah, dude, Edd and Eddy was, spectacular. Spectacular cartoon.
Why did they all have different colored tongues?
Yeah, that was also just kids.
The Kanker sisters molested those guys, right?
Oh my god, the Kanker sisters were a problem, bro.
Times.
They were clearly like older girls.
Yeah.
Who tricked them into being locked in their home. That's a thing that happened. I can't say, what else went down, but they made some noises.
Yeah, that was...
Those guys got molested.
Yeah, that, the more I think about it, the more problematic it becomes. Because it's slapstick. It's supposed to be like, ha ha ha, get it, weird creepy girls, your guys are boys, yeah, boys hate that.
This is a different thing I was thinking of. This is related. So I was thinking about, so there are certain things that are just sort of, they're funny in a way that, it must be because of a part of, culture is so pervasive, or, the human animal just thinks this is funny. And, one of the things that I was thinking was, talking funny is funny. Doing accents is funny.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes this can be offensive, but sometimes this can be just completely non-offensive. Like when you do, just a funny clown voice. That can be just, to a child, that's funny.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think might just be funny is being a little bit too attracted to men.
What do you mean?
It speaks to a level of innate horniness that immediately, you can play that for comedy. Just being just... A gay man liking men is yeah, all right. But if a gay man is like the
wolf with his eyes coming out of his head and
or
his tongue rolling out.
If he's ever you ever just really get up in a guy's armpit and just
yeah,
see?
It's pretty funny.
See?
It's pretty funny.
It speaks to a level of horniness that isn't as funny if it's for women. Doesn't matter who is saying
it. It's creepy when you say that about a woman, but when you say it about a man, that's just hysterical. If I heard the same guy be like, you ever just go up to her armpit and I'd be like, oh wow, stay away from this guy.
Yeah.
But if a guy said that, I would be on the floor, dude. That's hysterical. Okay, I know exactly what you mean. That's funny. That's funny.
Anyway, that's the slapstick Edd and Eddy molestation move.
Bless.
They really like them. They really like these boys.
The double standard.
Yeah.
The double standard.
I'm not saying this is good. I'm not even saying it's correct.
It's just an observation.
It's just an observation.
Which, it's even funnier that, several times, Ed has demonstrated that at any point he could just stop all of them.
Oh, yeah, he's an X-Man.
But he doesn't... He can't hit girls.
Yeah. That's also why his little sister, Sarah, who's also superhumanly strong.
I love that bit, dude.
That's why she gets to beat the shit out of them all the time because, Ed's not going to hit a girl. It's his little sister, but also it's just girls, so he doesn't get to use his powers on that.
I remember Jimmy, I think, was like the fucking the Fae friend or whatever.
Yeah.
And he had like his retainer that went around his head or whatever.
Yeah, the halo.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that was supposed to be.
Like dental headgear.
Yeah.
Just bolted into the sides of his jaw and the back of his neck.
It was so intense.
So one of the best episodes is when Ed is just inexplicably mad.
Just in a bad mood.
Yeah.
He rips up that playground and eats the slide.
Yeah, no one can figure out why he's mad. And it's like the only time he ever like yells at Sarah and then she like backs down.
Yeah.
And at one point he like transmogrifies Eddie into a bat. So, he just grabs him like Looney Tunes, like yoinks him, stretches him, and he's like snaps back, and he's a bat, and he's just like hitting shit on the park.
That's a good bit.
Just beating the shit out of his friend and the environment.
Oh man, what a great cartoon! They did it.
And that's because he had a rock in his shoe.
Yeah, they just dump that shit out, and he's right back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the line. Ed is happy once more. Like, once again. Like,
So good, dude.
Do you remember when Cartoon Network would just play music videos sometimes that had like fucking...
Mojo Jojo one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go Monkey Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I found out a thing about Mojo Jojo recently.
Oh, yeah?
So, why does Mojo Jojo talk the way that he talks? Because Mojo Jojo doesn't just say, like, I'm going to commit a crime. He says, like, I'm going to commit a bank robbery. I'm going to take all the money from the bank, robbing it. A bank robbery. Like, he restates what he does. And, like, that's a very specific way of talking. What was that? And I just read that, like, the people based it off of the it's now a meme, but it was also just like a children's book of Lex Luthor stole 40 cakes. That's as many as 4 tens, and that's terrible. And they were like, that's how Mojo Jojo talks. I will steal 40 cakes. That is as many as 4 tens, and that is terrible. Wah!
That's awesome. That's really funny. It's funny how things like that just happen. I wonder if that's one of the rules in the wall.
I bet it is.
So to those unacquainted, the Roadrunner cartoon, part of the folks who made that, I can't credit any names here, which I apologize for, but apparently when they were making the cartoon in the studio, they had a bunch of rules on the wall about the Roadrunner, and you couldn't break any of these rules. One of those being, the Roadrunner must never leave the road. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the Roadrunner.
Yeah.
And then Wile E. Coyote will always fall victim to his own schemes whenever possible.
Yeah.
It's
not the Roadrunner fucking him over. It's him fucking himself over every time.
Oh, yeah.
He buys shoddy products and has silly plans.
Cuts corners. Yeah. And then like he'll never catch the Roadrunner. And there was like a whole bunch of these rules on the wall. And so ever since I heard that, I can't help but imagine that like a lot of like cartoons or studios or things have like these little spark notes of just like Mojo Jojo talks like that. They have like that article like on the fucking like wall or something. And it's like that's how he talks.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
just to kind of root people into that.
I think pretty much all writers' rooms where you have to have, like, especially you have to like corral like a bunch of disparate people that like haven't necessarily been on for the entire time. Yeah. You need to have like the story Bible or like the commandments on the walls of what can't happen. Otherwise, you end up with some very silly things. And this is going to seem like a cheap shot. You'll end up with some stuff like the new Star Wars movies, where you have a bunch of things that like the previous movies have said this can't happen, just happening, and then the story doesn't treat that with any weight. If you just break your own rules willy-nilly and it doesn't have any effect on anything, what it tells your audience is that, oh, you don't actually know what matters. You can't care about this.
Yeah, I feel really bad about the new Star Wars films. I talked about this with Rob because it just undoes all of the achievements that Luke did in the original trilogy by just saying, "Oh, Palpatine's back, and we gotta beat him again."
Somehow Palpatine has returned. That just wow. And the actual message that, like, it's important in the movie that you know what message was sent out by Palpatine, and that message isn't in the movie. It was in Fortnite, the season before the actual movie came out. in theaters. So if you're like, say, trying to watch all of the Star Wars movies now, this message is just a thing you would have to like look up on YouTube. It's not even in the movies.
I hate that kind of like when we were younger and you saw things like Blizzard doing all this cross marketing with like different IPs and stuff, like having the game fuel.
Yeah.
I used to eat that shit up. I thought that was really cool. I thought it helped like, encourage collaboration. And, like, you can you can take these two things and make something cool out of both of them.
Right.
But then I hear part of Star Wars is just exists in Fortnite and nowhere else, and my lip curls. Like, that's taking that shit way too far.
Yeah. For
no fucking reason and no actual payoff. Like, what's the payoff there?
I would have no problem with it if it was also in the movie. But it isn't. I have a bunch of dumb fucking writing rules that I have. And one of that, like... Because I'm a fucking nerd elitist, I think that I know what makes things good. And one of them that I'm pretty sure makes things good is that what's in the text has to be in the text.
Yeah, we talked about this in a previous episode. Yeah.
The movie has to contain the movie. If it doesn't, if you need to do homework on top of it, you're fucking over every piece of media attached to it.
Because we were talking about the Marvel films. And
yeah.
How, like... That's one reason I tapped out of Marvel was like, oh, I have to get Disney Plus to be able to understand these movies. Okay, you can literally go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that.
There are certain things in the Marvel things where it's like, oh, they do include like a brief summary of that. That I think counts. The text is in the text. Yeah. The movie contains itself.
It can be a summary, but you have to at least bring it up.
You have to bring it up. You can't just be like, hey, remember this character from this TV show. We're going to assume that you know this character. We're not going to introduce. You know this character already. Despite the fact that the show that they're from has nothing to do with any of the characters currently present. You should know that the new Captain Marvel character was made in the Scarlet Witch show, but only briefly showed up with powers at the end, and then was not named as specifically a Captain Marvel type character. But she's based off of a character in the comics that's also a Captain Marvel character. You should know all of that and then watch the Marvels. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Fuck off.
Absolutely not, man. Sorry you lost me.
Yeah.
Maybe you never wanted me, but I feel like I don't know. That's just I don't know. That's not gonna. That doesn't cater towards me, and I tapped out. I no longer watch those movies.
I don't have any problem with the new Star Wars movie, like the sequel trilogy. It obviously isn't what I would call good for a bunch of different reasons, including this one. I think probably as time goes on, just like the prequel trilogies, like opinions will soften on it, and it'll be allowed to be its own thing. But I think genuinely, it being the sequel trilogy rather than just a different Star Wars trilogy, like the inclusion of Han and Leia and Luke, genuinely made it just worse.
Yeah, it did.
It made those movies just 100% worse. But it did lead to one thing that I love. So there's a new series, new Star Wars series that's going on right now. That's basically The Goonies or Treasure Planet in Star Wars.
Oh, that sounds excellent.
And
what is it called?
Oh, shit.
He lost it.
What is the name
of it? Oh, man.
He
doesn't even know. He's giving it praise and he doesn't even know.
I don't like it that bad, apparently. The point that I was getting to is that there in the first Star Wars movie, he's in the cantina, there was just a wolf man.
Oh.
And we don't see another Wolfman in Star Wars until this series, where the evil pirate captain is just a Wolfman with glowing red eyes.
Sick.
Like the shitty puppet Wolfman.
Yeah.
It's just him and he rules.
Oh, fuck
He's
yeah,
so
dude.
evil.
Hell yeah. That sounds... See, now I gotta watch that because I love me a Wolfman.
Yeah. And it has...
And he's like an evil Wolfman?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best kind of Wolfman.
Evil pirate man. And they have their own pirate man who's played by... I don't know the actor's name. He played Dumbledore and young hot Dumbledore. He's a different pirate man who's also pretending to maybe be a Jedi. I haven't finished the series. I watched like the first 3 episodes and I was like, all right, okay. There's also a pirate droid who does he actually talks with a pirate accent, where he's like, "Arr, yar." They got a pirate droid.
That's pretty good.
That's fun.
That's
I
fun.
really like
the
that.
Star Wars I want. That's the Star Wars I want.
It's goofy and cartoony. Yes,
That's
maybe.
the point, though.
But also,
It's a pulp. Yeah, whatever.
it's a pulpy fantasy series by any other metric.
space.
In space.
Yeah, that's what Star Wars is supposed to be. That's what I signed up for. So I, like when I click Star Wars, I want like space cowboys and fucking Wolfman pirates. Like that's what I want. Give me more of that, and less fucking Kylo Ren doing weird. So in the second of the sequel movies, episode 8, I think it is.
Yeah.
When they're like fighting the elite guards of Snoke or whatever.
Yeah.
That lightsaber sequence was just bad.
Yeah.
Like, I say what you will about, like, the choreography of all the other movies. All of the fights in the prequels looked cool. At very least, they looked cool. You can argue that, like, an actual swordsman, like, and, like, fucking, like, break it down and it's just nonsense, and they're like...
You can argue that it's silly, but what you can't argue is that it's it is cool and it does follow its own rules.
I said this before in the podcast, I'll say it again. When Darth Maul comes out during Phantom Menace and the Duel of Fate starts playing and he does his lightsaber and it's like twing.
He does one blade and then
twing.
The second one comes.
Yeah, 10-year-old Tony lost his fucking mind. So
dun 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 dun.
You can say that like the groove in my brain is so deeply like fucking recessed that like I can't not have this reaction. But to this day, I watched episode 1 and I fucking flipped my mind. As far as like a dramatic like montage sequence of like how to end like a fucking movie, having Duel of Fates play as fucking Anakin and Qui-Gon are fighting Darth Maul, and then there's the sick nasty spaceship battle which we hadn't gotten literally the entire fucking movie. We haven't gotten that. Two things to me that are quintessential to Star Wars: lightsaber battles and ship battle, like a dog, like space dog fighting.
Yeah,
and Episode 1 gives us that at the end. I mean, it's cheesy and campy and dumb.
Right.
We're like fucking Anakin, like...
Now this is pod racing.
Yeah. People hate that line.
I was going to say, how do you feel about Jar Jar Binks throwing energy cannonballs at droids?
That's not during Duel of Fates, though. I'm pretty sure, like, that's removed. It's before and after the Duel of Fates sequence. Maybe
you don't enjoy his Mr. Magoo.
No. I mean, when I was a kid, I did. I used to have Jar Jar t-shirts. Man. I was super into Jar Jar. I didn't know how racist he was. I didn't know any better. I was a dumb little kid.
I'm glad that the guy who played Jar Jar actually has, like, decent work with the fucking company now. Because before, he was like, I was Jar Jar Binks. Can't I be in other Star Wars things? And they're like, no. We're going to get a different guy to voice Jar Jar Binks now. Fuck off.
Goddamn.
Everyone hated you. And he's like, they didn't hate me. They hated the racist thing that you guys made me do. And they're like, no, it was you.
It's so evil.
It was. Now, thankfully, there's like a Jedi temple thing that they do for kids. Like that. I think it's a TV show / experience at like Disney. And he's like the teacher there. And because he, like, established himself as, like, a lore character, Jedi Master, like, that taught younglings, in a bunch of flashbacks and things like The Mandalorian and stuff, when it shows, like, the younglings and stuff, he's the teacher there, because that's him now.
I'm glad they
did right by this guy now.
That makes...
I believe, I hope that they have.
There are times where Disney does the right thing. They're still... Not the best company, but...
They're still one of the most evil things imaginable, but I'm glad that they did right by a guy whose only crime was doing what George Lucas mumbly
just like
asked
Hayden
him
Christensen.
to do.
Hayden Christensen basically gave up acting for doing exactly what Lucas told him to do, and everyone hated it. I thought it was fine. I think it was fine, but I understand why people didn't like it.
Yeah, poor young Anakin as well.
Oh, yeah, so one thing I wanted to talk about, not to derail... the theory of Jar Jar Binks being a Sith Lord.
Oh, yeah.
I subscribe to this. It was clearly obvious he was going to be a Shakespearean fool. Because so many things in episode 1 just don't add up with him. And it's like, oh yeah, he was supposed to be Darth Sidious the whole time. And that would have been one of the greatest reveals of all time, but I guess too many people figured it out too quickly. And he's like, well, actually, it's not the case, so, That's what I think Lucas did.
I think...
Well, he was just so universally reviled by adults.
Everyone hated Jar Jar Binks.
But that's the thing. If you make him the Sith Lord and then, like, fuck that guy, kill him. Like, that's how you work with that.
He pulled the plug. That's why Count Dooku just shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I personally am of the opinion that he wasn't supposed to be like the main Sith Lord. He was supposed to be like, not Plagueis, obviously, but he was supposed to be like a higher up ranking, but not quite like, he wouldn't be like a Darth. He's not a Sith. He'd be like a Sith High Priest who was there to fuck shit up and get things ready, because everyone knew that the Emperor was Palpatine. It's the same actor.
Yeah.
He's obviously the same guy. So I'm of the opinion that the Darth Jar Jar reveal wasn't going to be like, oh, he pulls out a red lightsaber. It was going to be that he's like, all right, so you guys finally figured out that like that's why I got like sent to do what I was doing. Which is still basically the Darth Jar Jar theory. I know it's a popular theory for a lot of reasons. It makes sense. You're right. They were setting him up to be a Shakespearean
He has
fool.
Sith eyes.
He does.
He has Sith eyes, and if I remember correctly, none of the other Gungans have eyes like that.
None of the other Gungans can jump 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, he force jumps.
He does a lot of shit that they explicitly show other Gungans are like. Other Gungans are like humans, where they're like, they can't jump over a giant leap into the fucking lake like that, but he did that shit no problem.
It would have been one of the greatest Shakespearean fools of our time.
Yep.
Of the idea that, like, oh, look at how fucking stupid and oafish this guy is. Yeah, we hate him. And then, like, twang, twang. He gets the way to the lightsaber, too. And then it's like, oh, shit, what? And then he starts doing his stupid fucking flappy ear nonsense and beating up, killing Jedi. If he did... Remember in the Clone Wars cartoon where fucking Getty was just told, oh, introduce General Grievous.
Yeah.
And a bunch of Jedi die. And he had Grievous solo all of them, making him one of the coolest characters in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was Jar Jar instead. That's what I wanted to see. That's what I wanted to see. But we didn't get that, so...
I mean, the big problem is that they would either need to do a scene where Jar Jar stops talking like that.
That's the thing. He should. It should be like fucking Kaiser Soze, where like he like stops like limping and then just starts walking regular. It should be he stops talking like a racist caricature and then gets like a deep like holy voice like
Misa think Yusa in deep doo doo.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is other Gungans talk like that too.
The other Gungans talk like that is the problem, exactly. So either they need to have the reveal that he doesn't necessarily talk like that, or they need to play it completely straight, where at the end he gives a Sith-style speech, because they love doing that. The bad guys give speeches like crazy in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to have to do like Misa and Yusa and stuff,
like,
and it's a problem.
Boss Nass makes like Hannibal Lecter noises in the middle of just talking.
Boss Nass does like...
He also does he says something and he's like he just makes like clicking noises and weird. Gungans are silly.
So the guy who played Boss Nass is a very interesting man who I don't know his name or what he's actually famous for, so I'm going to be wildly offensive here. Because I'm sure, like, if you get into a big role in Star Wars, typically that means, I mean, since Star Wars was first successful, obviously not the first one, that means that you were respected. Like, Liam Neeson was Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
I don't know who Boss Nass, what else that actor did, but I've seen him on like talk shows and stuff, and Boss Nass is apparently he told the story on the show Would I Lie to You? Apparently, like he based like Boss Nass's like mannerisms and the fact that he made that shaky head thing off of an orangutan, and that he had to entertain while it rowed a boat down the Amazon for him.
Wow, okay.
He was just in the Amazon or like the Congo or somewhere, and there was like an orangutan on a boat, and the locals were like, yeah, he'll row the boat for you if you like, if he's chill. And he's like, that can't be true. And then he just started doing faces and noises and stuff, and the orangutan was like, this guy's chill as hell.
And he just kept rowing for him?
Yep.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know anything about this man, but I know deeply in my heart that he rules.
Yeah, And with that, we're going to end tonight's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.